Hey, welcome back to Shifting the Narrative with Carrie Tay. I am Caritha Taylor, your host. And if this is your first time here, this is a place where I share revelations I've received from God through my life with the hope and the prayer that they will inspire you and encourage you to shift the narrative in your own life. Today we're going to be focusing on a question that came from a quote that I read that absolutely rocked my world, shifted my world. And the question is this: what are you trading your life for? Here's the quote by an unknown author. It says, "This is the beginning of a new day. God has given me this day to use as I will. I can waste it or use it for good. What I do today is important because I am exchanging a day of my life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever, leaving in its place something that I have traded for it. I want it to be gain, not loss, good, not evil, success, not failure, in order that I shall not regret the price I paid for it." Wow, right? Just wow. I was like, oh, okay, all right, this is what we're doing. And so the question, what are you trading your life for? And as I began to study this and inquire of God about this, this is the scripture that I was given. And it is Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 26. And this is from the English Standard Version. And it says, "Jesus told his disciples, 'If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul?'" So again, the question, what are you trading your life for? What are you trading your soul for? Are you denying yourself and picking up your cross daily and therefore trading your life for the life that God has called you to live? Or have we gotten caught up in success and in titles? Or have we been beat down by the world so much that we've taken on the labels of the world? Or have we just become imprisoned in our own minds and unable to escape that, to really deny ourselves, to get out of our own feelings, to stop looking at ourselves and our selfish nature and look toward Christ in his selfless nature? So the first thing that I want to cover is us trading our life for worldly possessions. And I want to bring up the most well-known betrayer of all times, Judas. So many believers, non-believers, and scholars have asked the question, why would Judas betray Jesus? Like, where did it come from? And I'm sure that there have been many conclusions drawn. And as I looked at this, there were a couple things that stood out to me. We know that through the Bible stories, we understand how Jesus called the disciples to come and walk with him. He called them from where they were, from living their lives, working their businesses, and at that moment, they left everything that they knew and went to follow Jesus. No, you don't need to go bury your parents. No, you don't need to finish today's work. You need to deny yourself and follow me. And so surely Judas was met in a similar type of way. And so maybe Judas was opportunistic all along. Maybe he had already heard of Jesus and what was happening, and he just saw an opportunity to make his name famous. Maybe. Or maybe Judas was fighting this underlying character and this character flaw, and as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he was able to suppress it. But when he took his eyes off of Jesus and the mission, then that thing bubbled up. We get to see in the story of the lady with the perfume that she poured onto Jesus, and Judas and the other disciples, like, why did you do that? We could have fed the poor with that. And Jesus corrected them. And so we kind of get some insight into that loss of focus. But whether Judas knew it or not, he traded his life for 30 pieces of silver. Was it worth it? Did he know that how it was going to end? Even as Jesus told them that somebody was going to betray him. This whole concept of why did Judas betray Jesus is it can be researched and thought about and looked at the times and the culture of that time. But at the end of the day, what we know is that he traded his life for 30 pieces of silver. And so do we get ourselves into positions where we're looking at what we can have right now and are refusing to see the big picture? Where we lose focus on Jesus and what he's called us to do, and we start to think about ourselves. Maybe Judas was rich. Maybe he had a lot of worldly possessions and he was looking to go back to that place, or he was having trouble denying that. Are you in that place? Let's talk about another parable, the parable of the rich man, which is, so known in church culture, the parable of the rich man, that it would be easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. What I found interesting about this story is that the rich man is inquiring of Jesus, what must I do to be saved? In the story, Jesus does not say to him that you are not saved. Jesus does not come out and rebuke him or correct him. This is the rich man feeling discontent. The lack of connection was identified by the rich man. And as Jesus said, you must follow my commands and the things that he must do to be saved. And the rich man says, well, I've done all that. What else must I do? So the what else question came from him. Oftentimes this is looked at as, well, Christians aren't meant to be rich. And that's just simply not the case. The opportunity here is, where is your heart? Because as you continue to read the story, you find out that the rich man decided that his worldly possessions were too high a cost for him to pay in return for his soul being saved. So he traded his soul for his worldly possessions. Now, the thing is, when you read these stories, because we already know the outcomes, we already know what Jesus said, we read these stories and we don't see ourselves. But the enemy is much more cunning than that. His way of getting in is through cracks and crevices, through small thoughts, through fleeting thoughts that then take root and come out into our actions. Where are you spending your time? Where are your treasures, as the Bible asks us? Are we storing up our treasures in heaven or on earth? Are we more consumed by achieving and getting status for how we'll look, or for the glory of the kingdom? Are you reaching for achievement because you are a representation of Christ and on a mission to save people, on a mission to let people know who he is, to let your light shine, for that to be first and foremost? When people talk about you when you're not in the room, do they say, oh yeah, Caritha, she is God-fearing and XYZ? How amazing would that be? That's how I want to represent the kingdom. That's how I want people to introduce me, to talk about me when I'm not in the room. Caritha, she loves God. She loves God. And she loves her husband and her daughter. And she has a heart for God's people. And she's an entrepreneur, a speaker, an author. Let the other titles that the world sees as valuable come later. But the most valuable title that we have is child of God. It's what God says about us. It's who God says we are. And on my next episode, we're going to dig into the titles that God gives us versus the titles and the labels that we allow the world to put on us. I'm so grateful that you are tuned in. And like I said to start, it is my prayer, it is my hope that through my sharing, you'll be inspired and encouraged to shift the narrative in your life. Thank you. See you next time.